Hey y'all, we back again. We got Chief in the building, and man, when I tell you, every time me and Chief come on, it's always another one, right? So y'all, hey, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, send it out, let them know we on. We about to rock out with our socks out. We going into the north. Go ahead, Roy. You want to go ahead? Go ahead.
Yeah, so today we flipping mirrors for y'all. Okay, now, the same thing you see coming into the situation, you got to see it some kind of way coming out the situation, right? So we're going to go over some sorcery and sources of sorcery. So we just laying the foundation for y'all so y'all understand what's going on as we go through this information. The information is there because we have to figure it out. So it's in the public domain, but now when we start flipping these mirrors, you'll start seeing what matches what, right? Okay, now, couple things before we get started. We warned y'all about leaving y'all children in these people's public brainwashing camps, right? But we also warned y'all about sleeper assassins. A couple days ago, Thanksgiving Day, there was an activated sleeper in DC. And they knew he was there. They knew he was an asset. The same program that gave us the story of John Wick and the story of Jason Bourne and the Mark Wahlberg sniper, the same program. It's the same program as the movie Hitman 47. These assassins are used in foreign places, but when their tour is done, before they decommission them, they do something called a debrief. In the debrief, they got all of the triggers he picked up during the tour. So before they can release him back to the public for civilian duties, he had to go through something called the debriefing process. This is also supposed to allow them to recover from the traumas of warfare without having post-traumatic stress disorder. But they're not doing that. Now, that program is overseen by subsidiaries from the MK Ultra program. MK Ultra was the U.S. military's investigation into psychic phenomenon, hypno-assassins, and it begins the programming of assassins or sleepers in America begins with a Dr. Erickson, who give us Ericksonian hypnosis. And Dr. Erickson said that he could insert a message into a hypnotically induced person. The person don't know they carrying the message until they get to the destination, and there is a trigger word that the other person at the other location calls to them to go into the trance and reveal the secret information. After that, they come out of the trance having never remembered that they delivered the message, right? So they have another dude, I forget his name, but he was a Spanish guy, and he created the device, the electronic device that they can remote control operate you. And he did the experiment with a bull, where he put an implant in the bull's brain and he had a remote control, and the bull would try to charge him, and he would hit the stop button on the remote control and stop the bull within inches of goring him. Right? So then they have what's called the Zimbardo prison study, where they did a study to determine how obedient we are to authority by creating a imitation prison environment. And they did this at a university in Arizona. right? So now they have all of the means to program people to kill.
Mm-hmm.
The term brainwashing comes from the Korean War, where the reconditioning of the mind became known as Sai Nao, or to wash brain, right? Or to cleanse the brain. What we call in brainwashing is a misnomer.
Mm-hmm.
To wash it is to clean it, but to program it is to confuse it. So they give you a term like brainwashing, which everybody should be trying to get brainwashed, but they gave it a negative connotation that really means mind control. Right? So
Right.
if they say you've been brainwashed, then in the field of psychiatry, they don't use the term brainwashed. They say you've been reconditioned.
Yeah.
Or you've been converted.
Reprogrammed.
Right. Now, it's a book by a Dr. Denise Wynn from Psychology Today. The name of the book is called Manipulated Mind. And there's a subchapter in there called Sudden Conversion. And it's an analysis of how people convert from political philosophies and ideologies or religious philosophy and ideologies, and one day they certainly convert to a different one. The grand illusion of religion. If you start out a Jew, a Christian, or a Muslim, whatever you want to call them, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, and you convert to one of the other ones, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference is in Islam, there's more micromanagement of your hostile temperament by keeping you in salat 5 times a day, sometimes 7 to 9 times a day. Right? And this is supposed to keep you in the constant remembrance of Allah. Right? Doing salat. It's supposed to make you have a relationship with your God, Allah. Right? But what they're not telling you is Allah was a usurper God that replaced Allah. And the daughters of Allah is what they called in the Quran, but all 3 of them is older than Allah as a deity. And the 3 sisters is what they represent. And they call them the daughters of Allah, but they're not the daughters of Allah because they're all older than Allah. All 3 of the sisters is older than Allah. So then you go from Allah in Islam, and then you get Yahweh, a whole nother persona in the Hebrew faith as a so-called Jew or Judean. And under this faith, they give you the guy Yahweh, but he don't demand that you do salat 5 times a day. According to the Psalms, he only wants you to do it 3 times a day. Right? Then you have your Christian crucified Savior, modeled after the Holy Drama, rewritten in a play format for the entertainment of the Medici family, and it became the canon of gospel of the New Testament. The mistranslation and mistransliteration of the name Isis to Jesus is where the greatest confusion come in from. Because you got the 3 gospels, is the father, the 2 brothers and the sister. She is Isis, and Genesis is her genealogy. The genealogy of Isis, but it's not the true story. Because the genealogy of Isis gives you what you call the 12 daughters of Isis in the 12 regions of earth. Right? If you understand the daughters of Isis in the 12 regions of the earth, you know it by mountain ranges and geological formations. You don't know it by where her sacerdotal seat at this era. So when you see the 12 regions, the sun is going to come from one of those regions of the earth. Depending on who's closing the age, depending on where he arrives from. To arise in the Americas, he become a tribal shaman after the order of the cat. What we call them Panthers today, right? But it's the order of the cat. It's governed by Sekhmet as the founder and Bast as the high priestess of the order of the stealth priests of the feline order. The feline order is Phi is short for female. The female line is the mother line. And the first rightful heir on the mother line we would call Heru, which means the daughter who inherits the kingdom. And then Heru is the one who fights for the kingdom. Heru became Hathor in the modern translation of the Egyptian language, right? So Hathor is the matriarch that's about to become the grand matriarch. So she's represented in the stellar relief as a cow, right? Which was sacred to India, the Brahmin. Mm-hmm. The Brahmin gives you a Brahmin is Abraham. Remember, his name was Abram. And then they changed his name to Abraham. Abram means a Brahmin. A Brahmin was a priest class of the caste system of ancient India. The Brahmin class is the priest class. So now we know that the Brahmin is a caste member of priesthood. And this is why Melchizedek, the high priest, came to the aid of a Brahmin, his brother priest, right? So then you have the Melchizedek is also the one who trained Isis, or Set, that y'all calling Jesus. The reason y'all keep calling him Jesus is because King James bent the eye and turned it into fish hook, so it can make you become fisher of men. The lie they tell is that the Hebrew word is Yahshua, but the New Testament was not originally penned in Greek. I mean, in Hebrew, it was originally penned in Greek. And in Greek, we knew IESOUS said Isis. Right? Now, when they change the I to a J, it say Jesus or Jesus, because they want to take you back to the Hebrew Yahweh. Zeus is the European representation of Yahweh. It's the same character, different geography. Okay, so now, in order to know how the division of the land of the 12 daughters of Isis is, right? You have to also know the order of the Father, the Son, and the Mother dividing up the earth, which is Enki, Inanna, and Ninigazeta in the Sumerian tablets. Over here is Quetzalcoatl, because this is the land of Tahuti. Tahuti is Quetzalcoatl. He's Kukulkan. He's Quetzalcoatl, right? So when you're looking at the three divisions of the earth, right, that's your Trinity divisions, and each one of the three is represented by 4 daughters, and the land of Isis was named after the Isis seat for the daughter of Isis called Europa. And the Indus Valley, going into Italy, it was Helen, right? But they tell us the story of Helen at different time frames with different layers to the story. That's your Trojan horse story, right? Your Hellenistic wars, the war for Helen of Troy, right? So when you're looking at all of it playing out, we see it gotta play back in reverse. When you get to the Americas, they start with Christopher Columbus, 1492, the arrival. But they not moving into positions of power yet. They just surveying the land and trying to handpick what they steal before they go back to Europe to report the trip. Right? Christopher Columbus was a blackamoor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no, he wasn't. He was a tawny Moor, but he was from the Colon family.
Yeah, mulatto.
Or the Colobos, which was the family of the Black Jews of Spain that was being in the process of being exiled. Mm-hmm. Notice that during the exile of the Moors from Europe, they don't get officially classified as exile until 1492. That's not a coincidence that Christopher Columbus came over here in 1492 because they finally got expelled in the Great Inquisition was wrapping up. It was coming to an end. Now, the European families of the royal house, right? You got two layers. You have what's called your shield family, your blood shield family, which gives you your Rothschild family. And they produced the ones that conceal, right, all of the dirt of the royal clans. They are the unseen ones. They the ones that's pulling the strings behind the pale faces, making it appear that the pale faces got power when they don't. Mm-hmm. Right? Because the ones that's pulling the strings is the ones truly holding the power. And the anonymity keeps them from being detected. Mm. Right? Their ability to remain out of war shows they in Switzerland. Because they fund both sides, and the only people on the planet right now funding both sides is the banks out of Switzerland, what we call Federal Reserve banking networks. Right?
Neutral zone, just like Vatican.
Right. Now, the Swiss, remember, the last war that the Swiss had was called the Franco-Swiss War, right? This is when they used the war for the cover to exile the Huguenots, because the Moors in France was called Huguenots. Mm-hmm. So they exiled them into Switzerland, where they moved into an underground bunker under the Alps. The underground bunker since 2017 has been cleared out. They have removed all of the people that was living there. Now they're doing tours of it. So you could get to see some of the stuff, but they're not going to show you the grand ballrooms and all that kind of stuff. They're just going to show you the little tight spots where it looked like they was really, it's really for a disaster type shelter. That's not a bomb shelter. It's an underground city. And they only allow you to access certain points. It's the same with Area 51 over here. Area 51 is just the entrance. It's a whole network of offices and tunnels and living quarters and stuff under the ground.
Yeah.
Right? And they had the cryo freeze where they got people froze that's been froze. Like, we only think it's a handful, about 100 or some people that's in cryostasis waiting on the technology to cut it up. But when you get down there, you got thousands and thousands of them in these cryogenic chambers, just lined up in rows.
Especially rich elite family, rich elite.
Right. Now, that's where Tookie was, because instead of killing him, Schwarzenegger referred him to the military to freezing. He used his border security clearance to bypass the president. And that's why in 2005, Bush, didn't intervene. The governor didn't intervene, which was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Hey, Rod, some people saying that is those pictures of Tookie Williams in the casket real? Or is that like a dog, candle wax doll, or look-alike? Because they had a funeral with Tookie Williams, and he was in the casket.
They did have his funeral, and it could have been him sedated.
Now that makes sense because he looked like it looked like that.
Now
Too.
remember, they gave Tookie so-called gave him lethal injection.
Yeah.
But everybody forget the part where he sat up and tried to get off the table.
Yeah, you can't
The
kill him.
propofol didn't work on him the first time. So they had to give him the propofol again.
Man, that's cold piece right there.
So they took him back into the chamber, re-injected him with the propofol, the same thing that used to help Michael Jackson sleep. Because that's what they put you under before they freeze you. They give you general anesthesia before they freeze you. Then what do next? They put this stuff in your blood that prevents your cells from crystallizing when it's time to thaw out. Then they dip you in a liquid nitrogen, I think is what it is, liquid nitrogen, and it freezes you instantly below zero.
I might do a tape on this.
Right? This is technology that they got from the people living in Antarctica under the ice that was froze when they was trying to tell them how to thaw them out telepathically. They gave them the instructions, and now they running around telling us they brought them from Africa and they the Bajinga tribe. And we supposed to believe that. They walking around down there in Antarctica with loincloths on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what we supposed to believe. They brought them from Africa and dumped them off there to see if they could survive. And ta-da, and that's what we supposed to believe. Mm-hmm. Now, I've been telling everybody they got a whole city, a whole civilization that flash froze. They flash froze in the ice of Antarctica because that was Tartarus, which you keep calling Tartaria. Tartarus was the land. It was the desert. It's the coldest desert on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But under the ice, everything's under the ice. In the book of Enoch, they give you the description of Tartarus. And if you look at the maps from before Antarctica froze over, it's going to match up exactly with the description of the landmass under the ice. This is also supposed to be where Enlil's son, Marduk, was forced to referee the conflict between Enlil and Tahuti. He didn't want to be here, so they chained him in Tartarus. That's what this book of Enoch say. Tartarus would be the South Pole. So then, now the Moors are in exile. They set up camp in Al-Maghrib, and they operating under the leadership of a guy named Muhammad III of the Moroccan Empire. Right? Now, this is just trying to establish a relationship with the Moors that's in Al-Maghrib, about to launch out and fulfill the papal bull doctrine of discovery, spreading the white man's burden around the world as crusaders, right? So when they get over here, the Christian version of Englishmen from London is called the gentry, right? The gentry, or the gentleman's club, was the ones that came from England. The Huguenots came from France, and the conquistadors came from Spain. Now, this takes us to where we're about to go. Mary of Tudor, right? Often referred to as Bloody Mary, Mary of Bathory. She was a Tudor. The Tudor family is the family that owned the military called conquistadors. The word conquistador is a compound word. Conquista is conquest. And Tudor is the second part, is the royal family who's conquering under the name Conquistador.
Mhm.
She got a sister named Elizabeth, and she will become known as Queen Elizabeth I. And she has a sorcerer under her. They call his name John Dee, right? So John Dee's name is for a reason, John Dee. That's not who he really was. But let's just look at how they tell us the story, and then I'm gonna show you where to look to find out whose writings they was reading. Roll the corn, Elder.
All right, let's roll it. Hey, we got a lot of clips, y'all. Hey, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. This is about to get lit. About to get lit, y'all.
Did you know that one of history's most iconic queens relied on a spiritual advisor to help guide her rule? On November 17th, 1558, Elizabeth Tudor ascended to the throne of England. Known as the Virgin Queen, her reign was full of monumental achievements, but she didn't do it alone. Meet Dr. John Dee, mathematician, astronomer, and Elizabeth's trusted spiritual advisor. Dee was more than just a scholar. He was a mystic who used tools like his famous obsidian mirror and a crystal ball to communicate with angels and peer into the unknown. The Black Mirror was more than just a tool. It was a portal. With its help, Dee believed he could connect with celestial beings to gain wisdom and advice for the Queen. Elizabeth turned to Dee for advice on everything from state matters to celestial alignments. His influence even shaped her image as a divinely chosen ruler, supported by the stars themselves. For example, after Elizabeth ascended to the throne in November of 1558, she consulted John Dee to determine the most auspicious date for her coronation. Dee used his knowledge of astrology and celestial alignments to recommend January 15th, 1559 as the ideal day. He believed this date would ensure a prosperous and harmonious reign. Elizabeth trusted his judgment, and her coronation was held on that day, signaling the beginning of the Elizabethan Golden Age. John Dee was also instrumental in shaping Elizabeth's vision of England as a global power. He advised her on the concept of the British Empire and used his navigational expertise, including maps and mystical guidance, to support England's exploration and expansion. Dee provided guidance to explorers like Sir Francis Drake and advocated for establishing English dominance in the New World. Elizabeth relied on Dee's counsel to frame her role as divinely chosen to lead this endeavour, blending mysticism with political ambition. What do you think? Was Elizabeth's success due to her divine destiny, or the secrets seen through Dee's magic glass? Let us know in the comments. Follow the Witching Hour Chronicles for more secrets of magic and mysticism from history.
Hey, bro, you know, I think that dude, John Dee dude, was a dark-skinned black or more.
So John Dee is a fictitious character.
Okay.
There's another dude. You think you can pull up something on your on the screen?
Probably, but it's gonna probably skip me because it's probably gonna skip me. But it's
His name, look up Jacques de Molay.
Okay.
If you just type in D Molay, because it's spelled DE-MOLAY, it should come up to who Jacques de Molay is. He's a Templar. So the name Jacques is a French name. Jacques in French is John in English, or Jack, right? And D is short for D Molay. When they killed Jacques de Molay, they had to find out how to translate his Enochian writings. And this is where the story of John Dee is the English version of Jacques de Molay's writings. And he had star maps and everything in his writings, but he also had the description of certain types of magical rituals that they could perform to get power over the masses of people. Remember, the Templars was fighting in the Muslims all through the Ottoman Empire, going south into what we call today the Middle East, right? And during that time, the Templars had acquired a lot of powerful information from the old priests that still was practicing ancient customs on the land. They used this information to write a command manual. But didn't nobody want to put their blood on it until Elizabeth I. She did it by using the sacrifices being made by Mary of Bathory. She was a blood magic witch. She used to kill people's daughters and bathe in their blood.
Damn.
Right? Did you find Jacques de Molay?
No, it won't let me. It's running so slow, and then it starts skipping me. It's like
okay.
So
We don't worry about it. They know who to look up. Okay, now it's his writings that Robert Kelly is translating. Right now, notice the dude that's with John D. His name is something Kelly. I think it's Robert Kelly. Let me look.
Robert Kelly, like R. Kelly?
Yeah. I don't think that's his first name, though. I was looking for my other phone because I was going to look it up. But one of these videos is going to tell us. So roll the corn on the next one. We're going to tie more stuff in together.
Yeah. What the hell?
Roll a couple of them back to back. Huh?
Okay, I got you. Damn, what the fuck? I told you, it's doing something weird when I started.
John D. and Edward Kelly began using a black obsidian mirror to contact angels. Kelly, who acted as the medium, would look into the mirror and report the messages he received from angels, while D recorded them. According to their accounts, they communicated with beings who provided them with detailed knowledge of what they called the Enochian language, a complex system of symbols and words that was supposedly the language of angels. These angelic communications reportedly gave D insights into esoteric knowledge such as astrology, alchemy, and the nature of the cosmos. D believed that the angels were guiding him to create a unified spiritual understanding of the universe. However, the messages were often cryptic and sometimes involved controversial instructions, such as when the angels allegedly told D and Kelly to swap wives to fulfill a divine plan. This strained their relationship, but D remained convinced of the validity of the messages he received.
In the 1500s, Queen Elizabeth's royal advisor claimed to have spoke to angels through a mirror. Dr. John Dee, who was a mathematician, an alchemist, and a magician, claimed to have communicated with angels through a black mirror. The black mirror, made of obsidian, was also said to be a portal between worlds. But modern researchers discovered that the mirror came from Aztec Mexico. It's said that it was an old relic used to communicate with gods from the underworld. Was Dee really speaking to angels or something darker? Because that same mirror exists today, and people say that it still holds energy. Come back for part 3.
Why was Queen Elizabeth's scepter broken at her funeral? At Queen Elizabeth II's funeral, the Lord Chamberlain ceremonially broke his wand of office and placed it on the Queen's coffin. This wasn't a random act. It's a royal tradition that dates back centuries. The breaking of the wand symbolizes the official end of the monarch's reign. The broken piece is then buried with the sovereign, marking the close of an era. Despite her immense wealth, Queen Elizabeth chose not to be buried with lavish jewels. Instead, she took only 3 deeply personal items with her, each carrying emotional significance. The first was a pearl necklace gifted by her father, King George VI, a symbol of their close bond. The The second was a pair of pearl earrings from her grandmother, Queen Mary. Elizabeth valued them so much that she had replicas made and gifted them to many royal women. The third was her wedding ring, which she had worn daily since marrying Prince Philip. Queen Elizabeth's burial choices weren't about status or wealth. They reflected love, memory, and the deep emotional ties that shaped her life. Through her final moments, she reminded the world,
The breaking of the wand ceremony, witnessed at Queen Elizabeth II's 2022 funeral, had never before been filmed and has rarely been seen by the public. The last time it occurred was in 1952, during the burial of King George VI. In this symbolic act, the Lord Chamberlain, the most senior official of the royal household, breaks his wand of office in half before placing it on the sovereign's coffin to symbolize the end of his duties. Historically, the Lord Chamberlain held enormous power over public opinion. From 1737 to 1968, the office of the Lord Chamberlain had the authority to decide which plays could be performed in theaters, effectively making him the censor of public entertainment for over 2 centuries. He ruled over the public's cultural diet long before Hollywood even existed, determining what ideas would shape the collective consciousness. Notably, at the time of Queen Elizabeth's funeral, the role was held by the former head of Britain's MI5 intelligence agency. This is rather curious, given the historic role of the Lord Chamberlain and what we know about the influence of intelligence agencies today within the entertainment industry.
Look at that Masonic
The
floor.
tradition of granting wands or staffs to high-ranking officials of the royal household stretches back centuries, with records going as far back as the 1300s. Though officially a mere symbol, a relic of the days when such a staff might be used to reprimand unruly guests, these wands clearly carry a much deeper significance. Some royal offices even derive their titles from the staffs they wield, with names like Black Rod, Tipstaff, Gold Stick, and Silver Stick. The monarch also carries their own magic wands, known as the sovereign's scepters. They represent the temporal power of the monarch, and the current scepter, dating back to 1661, contains the 530-carat Cullinan I diamond, also known as the first star of Africa. The largest diamond in the world was supposedly gifted to Edward VII following the Second Boer War. Its sparkling brilliance serves as a shining example that this royal power over mankind actually represents conquest, bought with untold human suffering and forever drenched in the blood of the innocent. The concept of a magic wand can be traced through nearly every culture, though its exact origins are shrouded in mystery. While today we generally see them as quaint relics of a distant past, these wands still resonate and reside at the highest levels of power. The significance of this strange fact grows even greater when considering the etymology of the word wand. It is derived from the Proto-Germanic word wend, which means to turn or wind. Is it just coincidence then that the current reigning house of the United Kingdom is the House of Windsor? The previous German name of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha was changed just over a century ago in the year 1917, right before the end of World War I. Whether we examine royal traditions or the cultural influence of celebrities and movies, where wands carved from Hollywood are wielded as modern-day instruments of influence, it becomes clear that society is still being guided by occult magicians and their magic wands.
When dealing with this family, certain sacrifices must be expected. For those who don't know, the royal family isn't quite the charming heroes the press would have you believe. Remember, this is the same family that roped a naive 19-year-old into their hellish world, only to be used, as Diana herself put it, as a brood mare, to produce a suitable heir, then practically discarded. The Windsors, really the German Saxe-Coburg-Gotha family, have enough money to single-handedly feed the world's poor. No one truly knows what they are worth because the private wealth of the royal family is kept a secret. But the truth is, the Queen and her heirs are worth trillions, having accumulated the wealth of their black nobility ancestors in land, homes, and other treasures. They have more than 300 residences. That's right, 300, including palaces, castles, and stately mansions. The Queen could sleep in a different luxury estate almost every night of the year. And still, taxpayers foot the bill for their luxury lifestyle each year.
is irreversible, and the fact that she's
As you can see.
This is a recording. This is a recording right here. During the lady's Queen's funeral, they were they didn't know they was being recorded, and they said that her death was irreversible. She was time, right? So, but I got a couple more clips to try and
the death is irreversible, and the
so
fact that she's
this was happening on this. But let's do right here.
There's a video of the Queen when the Queen died.
Okay.
There's a mic on that they didn't know was on, and they leaked some information, and there was a conversation going on that wasn't supposed to go on live television. While they were recording it, you can hear the Queen's like team saying some weird stuff. Listen.
the death is irreversible, and the fact that she's
As you can see.
Okay, so this is during the Queen's funeral procession.
Yeah.
She said, this is the exact words, the death is irreversible, and the fact she is trapped. And then it just cuts off. So what do you think that means?
The death is irreversible. So it was planned?
I think, this is what I think. I think, like I said, what if at a certain time when you reach that level of power, success, whoever, just importance, something comes into you, or they put spirits, entities, or even different people inside of your body to control. Now, she's saying the death is irreversible, but she's still trapped. Now, this is just my own theory, but what if they mean by like she's still trapped? That spirit, they weren't able to transfer to somebody else yet.
Fuck.
So whoever that, entity is, was stuck in the dead body that they can't pass on.
Yeah.
the death is irreversible, and the fact that she's
As you can see.
Did the Queen of England try to soul transfer and fail?
Did the Queen of England try to soul transfer and fail? The bloodline contract. The royals don't rule by democracy. They rule by ancient inheritance, protected by spiritual contracts that trace back to Babylon, Egypt, and the Watchers. Queen Elizabeth wasn't just a monarch. She was a living anchor for an old world frequency grid. That's why her bloodline was preserved. That's why every ritual, every coronation, every speech had coded symbolism. She was a conduit, a carrier of something older than England itself. And as the system approached collapse, her role became critical. The transfer attempt. Behind closed palace doors and global ritual events like the Jubilee, a final operation was triggered. They attempted a soul transference, an ancient occult practice now fused with modern tech. Quantum resonance chambers, DNA-based consciousness mapping, clone surrogates prepared in hidden facilities, AI vessels awaiting an upload. It was a hybrid ritual, spiritual and synthetic. But what they didn't expect was resistance. The soul wouldn't move, not because of tech failure, but because heaven locked the gate. The heaven lock. There are things even the elite can't override. Elizabeth's soul, like all souls, is under authority, not ownership. She had lived her role. She had played her part, and the divine timeline had already expired. They tried to jump her essence into a new body. They tried to lift her into digital immortality. But instead, her soul hit a spiritual firewall and got trapped. Not in heaven, not in hell, but in the veil between, a prison for rulers who attempt godhood. A place where time doesn't flow and their influence collapses like code without source. The aftershock. That's why the shift after her death felt hollow. No divine aura, no cosmic continuity. Charles was installed fast. The rituals were rushed. The energy was off, like the crown itself had been cut from the grid. Because it had. Without her successful transfer, the system lost one of its last functioning spiritual nodes. And now, they scramble, panic behind the curtain, trying to revive a ritual that heaven already shut down. They can dress up the throne, they can install new puppets, but the keystone fell, and the gate is closed. Forever. End of transmission.
Time ever seen on TV. It's the breaking of...
All right, we'll come back on right there. Hey, Ross, I got a couple of questions that I wrote down based on all that. The breaking
hold on before we go to the questions. I want to go over a couple of things. Okay, now in there they mentioned about her trying to soul transfer.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we've seen a couple of videos that dealt with the ceremonial breaking of the wand, which is symbolically the surrendering of rulership for the next wave. Okay, now we also seen at Diana's wedding, she was on the black checkerboard floor, and at this funeral, there's a black checkerboard floor, which means that it's ritualistic, Masonic in nature. Okay, now when we talk about John D, right? And what was his name? His name was, what was this? The first video we played said his name, something Kelly. Go back to it, Elder. The first one we just played.
Did you know that one of history's most iconic queens relied on a spiritual advisor to help guide her rule? On November 17th, 1558, Elizabeth Tudor ascended to the throne of England. Known as the Virgin Queen, her reign was full of monumental achievements, but she didn't do it alone. Meet Dr. John Dee, mathematician, astronomer, and Elizabeth's trusted spiritual advisor. Dee was more than just a scholar. He was a mystic who used tools like his famous obsidian mirror and a crystal ball to communicate with angels and peer into the unknown. The Black Mirror was more than just a tool. It was a portal. With its help, Dee believed he could connect with celestial beings to gain wisdom and advice for the Queen. Elizabeth turned to Dee for advice on everything from state matters to celestial alignments. His influence even shaped her image as a divinely chosen ruler, supported by the stars themselves. For example, after Elizabeth ascended to the throne in November of 1558, she consulted John Dee to determine the most auspicious date for her coronation. Dee used his knowledge of astrology and celestial alignments to recommend
In 1582, John Dee and Edward Kelly began using a black obsidian mirror to contact angels. Kelly,
Okay, Elder,
who
that's
acted as
good.
the medium, would look into the mirror.
Okay, so you see, they mentioned that they was using the black mirror, which was an obsidian mirror. All right, and they said Edward Kelly was the one that's translating this stuff. Right now, we know that when they killed Jacques de Molay, the Knights Templar leader, that they was trying to get some secrets from him, and they end up killing him, trying to torture him out of the secret Masonic word. But they took his writings. He had his writings with him. This is where you get your obsidian mirror translation from, right? Now, this is the 1300s. The next time the Black Mirror becomes significant in the with the English is during Nostradamus, Michel de Nostradam, right? Nostradamus is a wordplay for Notre Dame, right? Remember, the Notre Dame University is where the slave narrative was hatched at, and that's why the slave ship is a perfect layover for the Notre Dame University, because they hatched that plan there for academic pursuits. But it was being used as a tool of conquest by the Tudors family or conquistadors, right? But in this case, Notre Dame is in, I think, France. So we got Huguenots that's going to roll it out. And then they pass it to the English. Okay, now, John Dee is the way to tell us that they got it from Jacques de Molay when they was trying to torture him out of the information. When they was translating his works, they give us Edward Kelly, and Jacques de Molay's works becomes the writings of John Dee, right? And so Edward Kelly is using Jacques de Molay's writings in order to determine the validity of his mystical practice. When he discovered it was accurate, now he knows how to tap into what he called in the Enochian language or the Enochian keys. These keys were not part of the public record. They was originally archived in the Vatican. But John Dee or Jacques de Molay as a Templar during Crusades, the Templars had recovered those scrolls from ancient temples that were now defunct. The same thing that the Thule Society had Hitler doing, right? While Hitler was fighting World War II as the commander-in-chief, they had another guy named, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now, but his job was to go into the Himalayas. Heinrich Himmler. Himmler go into the Himalayas and searches something called Scrolls of Destiny. And he is known as the Sanskrit word means government, but I can't remember what it is. But they sutras. And this is how they was able to learn how to manipulate such a large group of people on the planet by using what was in those writings. The writings trace back through the Babylon rituals. Because at one point, ancient Babylon was the global capital, so to speak. Everything flowed through the Babylonian Empire when they were in power. So this trade with the Babylonian Empire that later becomes trade with European nations developed what's known as the Silk Road, right? The Silk Road is a trade route through Asian countries. You can go through the Silk Road and you're supposed to be able to find anything you're looking for. Well, a lot of this is where Himmler was going. So when they used the writings of John Dee, they discovered the blood of the, what they call the blood of, the first blood of the innocent. When you do a conjure, the first blood of the innocent becomes your greatest tool to conquer somebody who you don't have a right to conquer, because everybody's supposed to honor the right of the blood spill. It ties back into the Babylonian blood magic system. Now, my blood magic research comes through a lady named Cagliostra. You can look her up on YouTube. And this was the one who gave me the full understanding of blood magic and its power, right? So I went through some courses that she was selling, and I understood what blood magic was and how it was being used. So in order for you to ever discover who was the first blood to spill of the righteous, you have to know blood magic. This is why they have to always keep certain people's names in the public domain, because we're supposed to use them to investigate. And if we don't educate ourselves above the condition and break the restraints of fear and study things that we would never dare study if we weren't in crisis mode, we need to study everything now. One of them is the different types of sorcery. So you can go into any chat GTP internet and say, was magic, voodoo, sorcery, etc. used in the settling of the Americas? And they're going to tell you that it was being used on both sides, right? So the blood of Crispus Attucks in the Boston Massacre, right? The first blood spilled in the so-called American Revolution. This first blood is biblically, it says literally, the blood of the righteous shall not be spilled in vain. That means that if somebody got a high enough status among the collective tribes and they use their blood to make a contract, a blood oath, we know the blood oath to be the most vile and bloody oath of the papacy. We went over that before. All this stuff can be looked up. Everything I'm telling you can be looked up. We actually went over these receipts already many times, but now we've shown it to you from a mirror flip perspective at Elizabeth I. Elizabeth the First used the works of Jacques de Molay under the pretense or under the name John Dee, because we have to know where the source of the magic is coming from in order to counteract the spell.
Right.
So he told her, remember, they say he advised her on affairs of state and expansion of her empire.
Mm-hmm. Out of that mirror.
Right. So the expansion of the empire that he was able to confirm was the blood magic by the spilling of the blood of Crispus Attucks once they understood how it's done, but they didn't do it right away. Right. So, but they have to keep his name in the forefront, and they have to keep the bloody contract on public display. So you'll find it at the George Washington Masonic Memorial, and you'll see that as the blood fades, the power of the contract decreases. It's almost where you can't see it now because it's been faded so much over the years. It's only supposed to last for 200 years, from 1776 to 1976. The 200 years end up becoming 250 years. Right? So the 250-year celebration is now. When the Catholic Church came, they created what is called the 400-year captivity contract with the people, without the people knowing that the contract is being implemented. But when they had the 400-year recognition of the bondage of the so-called African Americans on the Senate floor, this is the same as symbolically breaking the wine. Nancy Pelosi rips the Bible in half from her Senate seat, and Donald Trump stands in front of the church and holds the Bible upside down. That's the signal, the end of the contract of bondage by the Bible. The Bible had us under a spell that kept us captive. It's called the Amen spell, which makes you keep your inner self in check so that you can't never outshine these people that's holding you down. So they got you saying amen, and all of the other variants through the main monotheistic religions, they all use it. Because it's the spell that keeps you operating under their other spells. They call maintenance spells. So they have you convinced through the Eucharist of the Christ, but they're not telling you that they really talking about the sacrificing of the blood of Crispus Attucks in order to get the 200-year contract, because it wasn't supposed to last beyond that because the close of the age is to shortly follow. All contracts have to be canceled on the Jubilee year at the close of the age right before we cross the Maherta. So on July the 6th, we canceled all contracts for fraud and non-performance.
Right.
They was not able to successfully produce one treaty that they didn't violate as the United States government. Since they couldn't, it automatically activates the grandfather clause. Under the grandfather clause, that brings into the Iroquois Constitution back to the forefront, because in the case that the government doesn't perform for the people like it's supposed to, the contract is under the Iroquois directive. Article 77, where it tells you to serve the eviction in the public domain for the people to know that they were not following the ways of the land. They didn't, in other words, they didn't stay in their lane. They ran out of in everybody else's lane trying to take over.
Belligerent.
So the Iroquois Constitution, Article 77 tells them what the wartime chief have to put in the public domain in order to bring their shit to an end. So from there, it gives us the Continental Congress, also the Articles of Confederation reactivate the Republic, not the Constitution. The Constitution becomes void from the blood oath coming to an end. Mm-hmm. So the Constitution no longer is the supreme law of the land. The supreme law of the land reverts back to the Continental Congress doctrines. The Continental Congress was a different council from the Iroquois Confederacy. One was further north and the other one was south. Okay, so, but they had a mutual understanding between each other about doing business or allowing foreigners to do business on the land. The English was supposed to be governed by the Continental Congress that became your United States Congress, right? And the South was the Iroquois Confederacy was dealing with the French in the Louisiana Territory and the Spanish in the Florida Territory, which was the same territory. That's why Louisiana mean land of flowers and Florida mean land of flowers. One is French, one is Spanish. Because it was one land of flowers that went from the Gullah Geechee community in North and South Carolina all the way to the Creole community in what we call today the Louisiana Basin. Louisiana Basin is where the Mississippi River drains into the Gulf of America, formerly known as the Gulf of Mexico.
Our heartland.
Right. Now, those different documents have never been overturned in law or ruled to be null and void because they weren't allowed to do that. Because we needed to go back to the prior law of the land in order to restore the law of the land in place of the admiralty and maritime jurisdiction of the world courts ruling on the Plymouth Rock crash. So the complaint is that we crashed our landmass into their ship, the good ship Plymouth that we call the Mayflower. So now when we see what's taking place, we realize we got to see an Elizabeth coming out, Queen Elizabeth over there. And then you had Queen Elizabeth I. Now, in the so-called American contract, the first president is General George Washington. First of all, who was he a general of if America wasn't a country yet?
Go ahead.
See, he was the general of the French Foreign Legion, Huguenots. But he was trying to replace the Barbados-born George de Washita. George de Washita was trying to enforce the Continental Congress, not the Continental Congress, the Iroquois Confederacy, because he had imperial rights out of Haiti to do so, to enforce the contract. But he didn't, when he go to enforce the contract, he get usurped and replaced. This is why you got 3 birthplaces in the historical record for George Washington. One is France for his French allegiance. One is Virginia for his allegiance to the colonies. And then you have the real George Washita, the Washita Moor, M-U-U-R, that was from Barbados.
Yeah, and then he ended up moving to Oregon. It was the richest man in Oregon for a long time. Till they ended up, I don't know what happened to him, but I know the last they heard from him, he was the richest black dude. Yeah, that's right. Richest black dude.
Yeah, so
with slaves
now,
and everything.
so this go back to what they was asking you about. Why are those people in the first couple hundred years of the pictures is melanated?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
wasn't no pale faces coming with them at first. The first pale faces came in Virginia with the 1690. They told you they was Africans, but they was really Irish. But Irishmen were already here in the Appalachian Mountains. Right? So we call them rednecks and poor white trash, but the government don't F with them because if they push them too much, they got a longer standing history here than the corporate government of the United States. Right. So they don't want to push them to the point where they join sides with the tribes because they got just as much right to get an interloper off the land as we do.
Yeah.
Because they was here before the interloper came, and the interloper was also subjugating them. You got to remember, they started coming over here during the Great Potato Famine. The reason they had a Great Potato Famine because in the war, the Catholic Church spoiled the land with the salt waters of the sea. So it took a while for the land to cleanse itself and be able to once again produce produce. So then they came over here as refugees, and they was given their own territory in the Appalachian Mountains with the rest of the daughters of Scotta from the Catholic invasion when they tried to assassinate Scotta in Scotia. Right? Scotta jumped off the Abbey into the river, or they tried to shoot her with something, musket or something. She fell over into the ocean, and then her sister Scotia jumped in after her, but it was a boat of Templars that was, we call them Vikings today, but they were Knights Templars that was docked outside of the Abbey, and they seen them trying to kill the two sisters. So they dive in they rescue divers, dive in the water, recover them from the water, put them on a boat, and then they come over here. And this is where America picks up with Viking Viking writings, what they call Norse writings on rocks over here from the contemporary time frame. This is what's taking place. So Scotia, the land that she settled, became known as Nova Scotia, which means New Scotia. Scotta then gets the Appalachia to settle her redhead, buttermilk complexion, freckle-faced children. That became the birthplace of snipers, right? The whole sniper community derived from the hunting style of the Appalachian Mountains that they was taught by the tribes of the land, right? So they got all this stuff in front of us. So you seen George coming in, you seen George Herbert Walker Bush declaring himself the king because he's covering two Georges. He's also covering the King George of England, who issued, France, King George of France, who issued the first charter to the Bar Association to unleash the barristers over here to administer what they call law and order, but it's actually admiralty salvage rights of the land. The people of the land become also part of the salvage process, and this is where we get our presumed dead, lost at sea, civilly mortis status. And our birth certificates is capturing us as straw men. But it's all part of the salvage doctrine to recover the royals of the land in order to collect the bounty that was on their head. Where is the bounty on their head? The most vile and bloody oath of the papacy, right? And so now you see that the Catholic Church is issuing the edict for the blood oath, for the blood sacrifice. This is why they keep us individually attacking us through the judicial system with warrants, right? Because the warrant is the individual declaration of war against the one individual that's the potential leader of the faction that they want to shut down, right? And this is how they institute their COINTELPRO programs. Right. They readiness exercise 1984 programs, right? So you've seen the Georges, the two George, because George gave birth to George. So during this time of this fighting, we've been fighting King George the first, second, and third. Mm-hmm. Now we come out of here fighting King George the first and the second, and then the third being Barack Obama, right? The illegitimate Bush that's actually a clone of Akhenaten. That was part of the Boys in Brazil project when they told us they was cloning Hitler, but they wasn't cloning Hitler. They was cloning Akhenaten because they wanted to usurp the return of Tut and the recovery of the Tutton reign. Tut is the boy king. We talking Tupac now. Mm. The boy king, he say he back for everything they owe. No longer oppressed. So we had to all figure out who do you call on when your rule is not recognized, the next higher authority. What's the highest authority in the Americas? Tahuti. Ain't no higher authority in the Americas than Tahuti. right? Except for Big Mama.
I remember.
But Big Mama is going to send Tahuti. That's why he's going to be the most powerful. Because now Tahuti's responsibility is to show the people the fraud, unravel the fraud, put it in their face, let them see what the fraud is, how it's being unraveled. Okay, now.
Go ahead.
So now you got this, the bush has been seen. Now you've seen the laws being come to an end after the 400-year one. It was another one, there was another law they passed. I forgot which one it was, but it was basically to recognize our contributions, right? Then you have the wild card, the Trump card, Howard the Duck, aka Daffy the Duck, right? With his bill on backwards. Then he shot his bill around and it came out on his forehead. Right? So they tell you in the movie Howard the Duck that they was going to send a Goofy into DC to dismantle it. But we thought it was just satire because everything in DC is satire. We was right, but we didn't know we was right. Right? So now we coming out, we going from corporate jurisdiction to republic, back to the law of the land, tribal jurisdiction, recovery of the tribes, restoration of the tribes, the return of the family wealth, the recognition of the family lines, the tying you back to your ancestral farm. When they came over here, all of this stuff was already mapped out who belonged where. So when they tie you back to your family farm that they told you was a slave plantation, but it wasn't, and that they tried to steal it through sharecropping agreements. But at the end and the close of the age, all of the land has to return back to the matriarchy for reevaluation and redistribution of the assets in order to balance the wealth on the land so that everybody can be prosperous. Now the pauper guys that you've been calling crazy poor people sleeping behind liquor stores, they gonna start getting up and they gonna be walking around wealthy as hell. Nobody ain't gonna know how they went from rags to riches. They didn't want to play, but now it's time to pay. They was able to keep the game up from the bottom, the very bottom, because they were strong enough to take it. And the last shall be made first. And those who were first shall be made last. All those who was too high and mighty to reach back for the little guy, now the little guy might salve your wounds when we get done thrashing you, if you lucky. Bro, the coin out there, where we at?
Hey, I got a couple questions for you, bro. Hey, for the guy that's talking about firmament, that they can't get outside the firmament, he need to go look up meteorites. If they can't get out,
look, that's a dead end conversation, Elder.
Yeah, how do meteorites get into here then? If they can't get out,
that's a dead end conversation. So the whole firmament thing of the flat earthers, you can't argue that with them. That's like trying to tell the diehard Christian that Jesus is ISIS, and he even though it's true, he's not gonna believe that shit.
Yeah.
You'll think you crazy.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna do a whole tape on that, on the guys that think about the firmament and all that. About it's so many ways to prove that's just caveman thinking.
The firmament is the Van Allen belt. The Van Allen belt is a radiation barrier.
Yeah, they break through.
That's all it is. It's the Pleiadian light lot.
Yeah,
that's all it is. If you try to go through it, the radiation gonna melt you down. All that old satellite in the sky shit, they write about that.
But they designed technology that can break through it, and they was breaking through it for a while until certain groups of extraterrestrials.
Right, because they don't understand atmospheric windows.
Yeah, they busting holes in it. That's what they was doing.
They got layers. It's in layers.
Yeah, it's like
anything. Right. So as it's in layers, you just gotta know, because everything that's in layers, it's gonna be one. And it's going to be a way to get to the next level. It's called atmospheric windows. Anybody want to look up what I'm talking about? That's what you go look up, atmospheric windows. You also got something called atmospheric rivers. It's like a river on the ground, except it's in the upper atmosphere.
Yeah.
Right? Look up atmospheric rivers, because that's what give you what's called gorilla hail. When it gets too cold and it's too much up there, it come down as gorilla stone hail. Look up gorilla hail and it'll show you big ass balls of ice. Right? All this is part of the phenomenon we in. The reason we are in the Pleiadian light lock is to isolate the war on Earth from the rest of the stuff outside of Earth.
That's right.
Right? A lot of people don't know stuff we experience. Without this radiation belt, we would cause problems for so many people. This is why they keep thinking that they in a reincarnation trap. You're not in a trap. You in a simulator. And in the simulation, you have to figure out how to get out the game alive. And you got to understand, he who dies with the most toys win. And you get the most toys for ascending to the highest position on the board or in the game. Right? So that's your map is what the ancients left. It's your blueprint to how to get to that position.
I don't want to get you sidetracked.
Go ahead, Elder.
It just cut me. Oh, you. Oh shit! You was talking like I said something. Then you started talking, and then it cut me, and I didn't know if you was done talking or not. So it must have. I don't know if you had stopped talking or something. But my next question was because you said something about Tupac, and I got this big old file that I'm working on right now about gangs and stuff, right? And I came across some crazy stuff, man. I'm still shook from it. Let me just run down a little bit of it, tell you, and you tell me what you think. And then it's like really a question, though. All right, so the dude, Sylvester Scott, he wasn't the founder of the Pyrus, but he was one of the main guys who was like the main guys who made it big from his killing.
Yeah, you talking about Puddin'.
On the Crips, right?
You talking about Puddin',
Yeah,
the one
Puddin'.
Joel put a slug in him.
Okay, all right. So he also the guy they made Uncle Jerome in the little series they just put out with about Rick Ross, about him selling dope. He was Rick Ross' uncle, Jerome, right? All right, so Puddin' was working with CIA. I'm gonna just sum it up. I came to the conclusion that Puddin' was working with CIA and the FBI and LAPD. He even turned on LAPD and snitched on them. And then he was the main. He set up Death Row Records. Death Row Records was set up by the CIA. Death Row Records was set up by the CIA through Puddin' and his girlfriend, the lady that played his girl in the movie. They was moving dope for the CIA with Rick Ross.
Okay, now remember, when Ricky Ross and Puddin' was getting the dope from the government, they had no clue they were getting the drugs from the government. You got to remember that.
Found out eventually, though.
Only after they got caught up. The only reason they got caught up is because a reporter came out in a public forum in LA and put it on the floor. Now, the reason Ricky Ross didn't know that the people he was getting drugs from was the government, because his defense would have been that the government cannot create a crime and prosecute you for it. It's in their law. It's literally in their book.
I think he ended up using it to get out, and he got out.
Right now, if the government set up a crack house and hired you to work in the crack house, then turn around and raid the same crack house they put you in law, that's called entrapment.
Right.
Everybody you see that have these, if they was getting more than 5 or 10 keys at a time, they was getting it directly from the government, even if they didn't know it.
Look, Puddin' had so many murders. They knew about this. The government, man, look, this dude, I'm thinking he could have been a CIA hitman.
The reason why it was so hard for them to catch Puddin' is
Yeah.
because people was too scared to testify against him.
Yeah.
So they never could come up with a case. Did nobody want to be the one sitting on the stand pointing at him?
But look, Puddin was the one. Puddin and his girl was the main money guys behind starting Death Row. Suge Knight just was the front man, and then that's why they said
it was Harry-O.
Huh?
Harry-O, a whole different individual.
Yeah, behind the scene. Yeah, he like
Harry-O was the one gave them the money to start Death Row Records.
Yeah, but
Puddin came later. He came to Death Row with Jewel.
With the girl.
She was the one who was dating them that was on Death Row.
How she was the first lady of Death Row?
That was just the title they gave her for her singing.
Okay.
Right.
But sit down with you on this
one. She turned around because she said Puddin was abusive. So she shot the shit out of his ass.
Yeah.
Excuse my French, but she shot him.
Hey, was Harry-O from Peru?
Harry, I don't know what Harry-O set was.
I heard the name Harry-O in that. Harry-O.
Harry-O got out. Harry-O got out. You gotta remember, when Harry-O caught his case, what made him able to do a lot of stuff is all of the money he had. This is before they start seizing assets with Rico.
Okay.
So they never went after his money. And then he turned around and paid taxes on the money that he had earned. So now all his money is now legit. Had he known that he was getting massive amounts of drugs from DEA operatives, he would have also been out much sooner.
Mm-hmm.
But he don't find out till Ricky Ross get up. Right? So the government don't want to just let him go because the government created the crime and they have to tell you why. So they'll just give him a parole. Right? Now, you don't never have to know that they were set up by the government.
Now, this what they say though, that Sylvester Puddin, OG Puddin, as in putting in work, he snitched on the government though. I mean, he snitched on LAPD and fingered them.
That ain't snitching.
Well, that's what the streets took it like that. Like it don't matter who you told on, you a snitch.
That ain't snitching. The police was the enemy the whole time. The Bloods and the Crips.
I know. I see what you're going.
They was formed to fight against the police.
Yeah.
The old Panthers was put together to fight the police. You gotta remember that. The police has been a foreign military occupying the land ever since you've seen police in your neighborhoods.
That's right.
If you know what police occupation look like, military occupation, you understand why the police have to be armed to the teeth like that. In London, all they got is a stick. They only call in the shooter on some drastic shit.
Yeah.
Right? So you got to remember that. The police is the enemy, and the tool of the police to torture us the worst is prison. They have to create the case. They have to come up with charges to charge you with by examining the so-called facts of the case. Right? That's a roundup. But they got restrictions on how they round you up. They can't just round you up where it'll alert everybody that it's a roundup, because then we'll become wise to the fact that they've been turning us against each other while they've been exploiting our ignorance of the fact that they turned us against each other. This would automatically make Bloods and Crips in LA unite, Vice Lords and GDs in Chicago unite, all over the country. It'll just start happening organically, because when you know that you was set against each other by the same enemy, it changes how you look at the war in the streets.
Yeah, I think that colors thing, the colors is a part of the conjure. It's a part of the overall conjure to turn the tribes against each other. Like separate tribes, turn them all against each other. Pretty much, there's a war.
No, so in the contract, uniform commercial contract, government agencies have to be clearly identified by their uniform. What is that derived from? All tribes must be clearly identified by tribal markings. This is why we get branded with tattoos when we wear something called a flag. We didn't come from the law of the flag, right? They forced the law of the flag on us. So now we just use our flag different. It might be a handkerchief in our pocket. It might be my hat broke to the right. You know what I mean? But we got the way that we flag. Our tribal flagging has became known as gang culture because gang mean tribe. So it's tribal culture. They trying to convince us to hate us, and it's working.
Yeah, criminals.
Right? Because as long as we hate each other and fight each other, we will never turn around and reclaim our birthright. Because we too busy worrying about a block. Long as you worried about your set and only your set, and you not making no positive progressive alliances, you're a tyrant to your own community.
Right.
Right? But soon as you realize what's happening, this is when you're supposed to send an SOS to all OGs. We need to have a meeting. Any set, every set. The OG from every set, we need to have a meeting. We just discovered it. The government turned us against each other through infiltration. Right. The government dressed up government operatives as Bloods to shoot at Crips. The government dressed up government agents as Crips to shoot at Bloods. They put people in as what they call agent provocateurs to entice us to fight each other in the streets instead of making alliances, because they can't govern the tribes when we start realizing who the correct enemy is. We immediately form the largest army on the land.
Right.
And we know how to incorporate and use what we call foreign nation armies domestic to the land. They domestic to the land, they not organic to the land. That's a difference. We call them domestic to the land because they were conceived and birthed on the land, but they're not from the land. Domestic means that it's home front development, right? So we call foreign nations, as they call it in modern English, but we call them domestic tribes if they've been over here several generations. Like the Amish. When everything is said and done, nobody not going to bother the Amish. Leave them people alone. Let them live their life.
They worship
right?
vines.
Right, because they stuck under their own vine and fig tree and followed the law of the land. So now we need to be learning from them how to form our communities and abide by the law of the land, which will make us so much more happy and prosperous. But they got this seduction of the flashy lights of the inner city, right? That all that's derived from the Big Easy, right? The big city lights is all coming from New Orleans. Well, I don't care where you find it at now. If you go back to the 70s, most places shut their whole city shut down at 10 o'clock.
That's right.
The whole city was shut down at 10 o'clock. You couldn't go to no stores. They was all closed.
Yep.
10 o'clock was the latest you could get anything.
Country town, so yeah.
Right? So you needed to bring in the bright lights of the big city at nighttime. And New Orleans was the first place where you had what's called 24-hour partying. That's when there was like Basin Street and Bourbon Street was together. Basin Street, you do the daytime, you go in there, you get your hair cut, you get your bath from the bathhouse, you go next to that to the massage, get your massage, you go next door to the funeral guy, pick out your scent, then you go next door to the suit guy, get dressed up, then you go next door to the shoe guy, put you some kicks on your feet, then you go down to the end of the block, right? And get in a taxi, go over to Bourbon Street, or you can walk over there because it ain't that far, and you party like throw a wang dang doodle all night long.
The old picture. Wang dang doodle.
Other than that, you had to find what's called a juke joint. Every major city had something similar to the juke joint for us to party all night long. We always had it. It became known as nightclubs and pubs and bars and saloons, but we had them long before colonizer came. Right? So we already knew how we used to gather. Our tribal traditions is still being practiced by our people. We just didn't know about the FBI snitch program. We didn't know about the infiltration and the paying of the what they call them confidential informants. People that we thought was just our neighbor was put in the neighborhood to tell them who are all of the up and coming names that's ringing in the neighborhood. That's how you find out who the chief gonna be before you know he gonna be the chief.
Hey, Rod, that's another thing about this dude, Sylvester Scott. So what I didn't like about him is that he worked with the LAPD to get rid of the Black Panthers, and he started, and they
Okay.
looked at
Before you go to kicking, putting, and believing that, you got to remember he was a high profile target. So there's a lot of smear campaign on behalf of the government to make you not look up to him. So you got to really go in and talk to the people in order to find out how he was really cut.
Yeah, I listened to the OGs from the no,
You-
mentioning about the Black
So
Panthers.
we're gonna get two sides of the story. We're gonna get the people from the streets and the OGs that dealt with Putin personally. Then we're gonna get the government reports and what the government say about it. And sometimes they say the same thing, but sometimes they don't. Right? But we gotta understand it's a mirror of what's taking place.
They said he was a maniac. Most people that I talked that I heard, they say he was a real live maniac. Like he a real killer.
He was the Red House version of Tuki.
Now Tookie wasn't no gun guy. Tookie didn't want to pull no.
No, Tuki was a fighter. He was 50 cuffs.
Yeah, this nigga
But-
right here shot Tookie. This nigga shot Tookie at the
Yeah.
Red House. Yeah. Sylvester Owens is the only one that was able to shoot Tookie.
Yeah. But
yeah, so we gotta start putting like I'm telling you, Rod. What I'm telling you is already.
I'm not saying I'm not saying you wrong or right. I'm not saying it's impossible.
Yeah.
I'm saying from my research on him, he was just a solid mofo.
Yeah,
and he went to war with the government just like he went to war with the Crips. But I don't have to be I don't have to be right. I don't have to be, but look, I don't have no dog in the fight for his name.
Yeah,
I don't got no dog in that fight. But I don't want to go down that track because I know how the government smear campaign works. I know what they tried to say. George Jackson had a pistol in his afro, man. Listen to what I'm telling you. They said they killed George Jackson because he had a pistol in his afro. The government telling us this.
Yeah, and I believe his girl was working with the government. And I believe that somewhere the way. I don't know because he left and lived a while after that
His
shot.
girl at the time was Jewel.
Yeah, he lived a while after that shot, so he probably said, "Oh yeah, well, it went off by accident or something." Because what he said is they wrestled over the gun and they went off and shot him by accident, and he just chunked it up like, "Oh, it shot me by accident." And so he lived a while after that, but I guess the green gang green or something.
Now all we got to do is kick back because since we having this conversation, Jewel gonna do somebody gonna interview her about how he was cut. Because she was actually in the relationship with him. You understand what I'm saying? I don't want to go into that part of it because I don't know that much about him but I do know that he was a rider.
Yeah, real killer.
He had put two in your ass just like you put two in his.
Yeah, he was a real bad.
But we gotta remember, so he's mirroring something on the West Coast. Remember, we flipping mirrors today.
Yeah.
You bring up Puddin' Pyru.
Yeah.
Where in New York, where's Puddin'?
Oh.
Nation of Gods and Earths.
Yeah. Okay, you talking about 5%? Yeah.
Hmm. Because Clarence 13X was affectionately called Pudding by the people close to him.
I know that. That's interesting.
All right, we flipping mirrors, right?
Yeah, go ahead, flip.
Okay. So on the West Coast, we need somebody named Pudding as a prominent representative of a Red House tribe.
Yeah, that makes sense now. That little flip.
Okay, now the only way this can be right is we had to pull up a Red House 5%er on the West Coast, and we present with you King's son. Right? King's son moved from New Jersey to Cali. Right? And when you say his name is King's son, that's the same as grandma calling him son. He's the son that's going to become the son, which is the boy going to become the chief. So she called him son. King's son. The boy that's going to become king. So when we see lingo to transfer the language barrier, because you got King's son coming from out west spitting 5% lingo, flipping mirrors. Now, while King's son doing that, we have the guy, the 18th letter in New York that's coming from a different angle, right? So the musical genre matching the changing of the concepts of how we communicate. Now we going from soul and R&B into this new venue called hip hop. Only by us mastering lingo and being able to flip the language, we'll be able to communicate across the different tribes without ever leaving the tribe we in. So now we put the lingo in the music. That's old Mississippian culture now. Putting the codes in the music comes from us using gospel music and blues in order to tell messages in the song that Master don't know what we're talking about, which was actually the invaders. We use the music to tell us messages. They tell it to you in the made-up story of Harriet Tubman. A woman called Moses going to rescue her people. How you know she coming? Because the fields break out, swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Now everybody on the plantation singing it, they know she coming, right? And the ones who want her to come, she in the woods, and they singing, come by here, my Lord, come by here. Come by here, my Lord. I'm going with you if you come by here. Right? They telling it to you in the folklore, in the made up story, trying to control the narrative. Right? And then they give you characters. If you hold up a picture of Karl Marx next to a picture of Frederick Douglass, you won't know which is which. If you hold up a picture of W.E.B. Du Bois when he was young and Vladimir Lenin when he was young, you won't know the difference. Right? So that's your Russian-American tribal connection, knocking across the continents. Karl Marx is going to give you the Communist Manifesto. Frederick Douglass is going to give you the life and times of Frederick Douglass. Right? Then W.E.B. Du Bois is going to give you a talented 10th. And Vladimir Lenin is going to give you a communist doctrine. He's going to give you a Bolshevik revolution. Two different revolutions. Mirrors flipped across two different continents to show you the same thing taking place over there is taking place over here. We're still fighting this war. Right? So then when you get to 1776, the revolutionary spirit began to stir, right? When 1976 is the bicentennial. So we looking at the rise of Robert Nesta Marley now, right? Growed up Jamaica 9 miles in the hills. But he's trying to get the tribal message from the islands to the mainland, and people calling him all kind of stuff other than the freedom fighter, right? Then you had other people too, like Buju Banton, Peter Tosh, that was putting the codes in the music to be incorporated into the new genre. So then you see the influence of Jamaica on hip hop. You see the influence of the salsa from Puerto Rico, Dominica, Mexico in hip hop. You see the influence. You see the influence of the old soul and the R&B from the vocals that emerge in hip hop. Your Ashanti vocals, your Missy Elliott vocals, where she's scatting, but she's not calling it scatting, right? We still talking to each other using the medium of arts and entertainment, even if we're not talking to each other using political and military channels. The communication can be passed from one person to the next, and it can be put in the public broadcast and translated by the ones who know the codes. The ones who don't, it ain't for you. It's above your pay grade. Don't worry about it. Somebody translate it for you. Roll the coin, Elder. Where we at?
And,
involving the royal family of Britain?
Yes, involving the royal family of Britain and the sacrifice and the eating of, consuming the sacrifice, and they are involved in that.
And you've seen them do that?
Yes, I have seen them do that.
People in Britain, listening to what you're saying, would obviously be staggered, I guess anywhere in the world, but what would stagger them mostly is, in Britain, the Queen Mother has an image of being the nation's grandmother. The nice old lady, and good old Queen Mum, what a lovely lady. What's your experience of the Queen Mother?
She is very cold in reality, and she is very cruel, and she is very different than she comes across to the public. She's cold-blooded. If she feels that you are someone beneath her, even in the Illuminati, that you're at her equal or your station is above her, she will not speak to you. She will not recognize you. She obviously, from what I see, enjoys consuming human flesh. It's sickening. The one person that she seems to be afraid of is Pindar.
Humankind was not in charge of its destiny. It was the unwitting prisoner of a race of shape-shifting lizards who occupied the roles in the highest echelons of society. From presidents to royal families, all trusted public figures were secretly part of a reptilian Satanist group who had been on this planet for centuries.
Don't mention the reptiles. They'll just laugh at you again. I said, I know, but I've seen enough and heard enough to believe that it's real, and so I say it.
Australian news site Perth Now allegedly released a report claiming hundreds of...
I met 12 separate people that told me the same story, which is of seeing someone, apparently human, who changed into a reptilian figure in front of their eyes and then went back again. And I was turning as I was speaking. And as I turned, all I could hear was, and I turned around and she's holding her chest. She said, my God, I wasn't going to tell you about that. She said, I thought even you would think I'm crazy. And she tells me the story. She said, what happened was she went out one night and she said, I walking through the forest and she saw a light. I walked through the trees quietly and I looked through where the light was. She said, and there was this ring of people wearing robes. She said, and the person conducting the conducting the ritual in his robe was Ted Heath. She said, and standing next to him was a guy called Anthony Barber, who was Heath's the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Prime Minister at the time this was happening. She had this experience. And she said, I'm looking. I said, I was shocked, obviously, but I'm looking. And she said, suddenly, Heath shifted into a reptilian form and grew about 2 feet. Now, that is an absolutely common theme I've heard all over the world, that when they shift into a reptilian form, they get taller and bigger. Because that's the real entity behind the human facade, you see. What shocked me more than anything is the rest of the ring didn't react. It was like it was the most natural thing ever. It wasn't like, oh my God.
The expectation is to act very dignified and proper around the Queen. But of course, sometimes nerves get the better of you. Check out 9-year-old Nathan, who was meeting Queen Elizabeth yesterday. You see, he's going to look at his face. He looks petrified.
That kid right in the middle there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's with his parents, David and Carrie, who are former Fame Academy
That
judges.
kid,
Here comes the Queen. Let's just watch this happen.
Kid
Watch
got-
it.
kid-
For us today. We're hosting today. This is our adoptive son.
Did you know Prince Charles is the heir to the real Count Dracula? This is insane.
Charles is the main heir of Count Dracula.
Check this out, y'all.
I agree. That sounds insane. I bet you $1 million. Bring that up, Jamie. I bet Prince Charles, Count Dracula. Okay. Prince Charles is the heir of Count Dracula. Is that right? He moved in 5 years ago to Count Dracula's castle, and he lives with a group of homeless children in it.
No, he does not.
I swear to God.
Prince Charles, Prince Harry's dad.
Prince Charles, the heir of the throne of the dragon.
Okay.
Is a Transylvanian
According
prince.
to this Google search from express.co.uk, Prince Charles has distant kinship to Vlad Tepes, the 15th century Wakallian ruler, whom the Irish novelist based
Hey, Vlad as in
Truth
Vlad
is stranger
TV.
than fiction, y'all. Let me know what you think in the comments, and as always, thank
Prince Charles is the main heir of Count Dracula.
He's a direct bloodline of Vlad the Impaler, the OG.
There's a scene where they're at George Bush Sr.'s funeral. Everybody is handed a white envelope, and they show Clintons open a white envelope, professionals, no facial reaction. They show Michelle Obama opens the envelope, Barack goes like this. They show the envelope, George Bush Sr.'s wife opens it. She looks at Jeb, and Jeb is looking around because it's his father's funeral, and then Jeb goes like this for half a second. He goes, half a second reaction to the envelope? If you only need to look at something for half a second, that means there's not a paragraph or a sentence. It's a number or a word or a letter. Boom. That's what it is. Apparently Trump didn't receive an envelope. Trump called it the amorphous group of lunatics. Certain group of people behind closed doors that have the power that are doing this. Hillary's worth $300 million, $400 million. You know what that is to these other guys? You're nothing. That $400 million I spend on a regular day, just interest on what I'm paying. Who could that be? It's going to be tied to people that have money. I don't even know what's in the envelope. I want to know.
What do you think all those letters that were handed out at George Bush's funeral?
Everybody looked at him pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
It was, hey, we're getting ready to arrest Epstein.
Everyone, this news about the Epstein files being released over the weekend, this is gonna change everything. Everyone, this news.
Man, why he rolling on that man Peter, man? That looks funny, man. I don't know about that, Trump.
Gonna
That look
change
good.
everything.
I ain't never seen a real G do
I
nothing
just
like
gotta
this.
have a
Trump.
big meeting with my
Okay, you guys, these Epstein files are out of control, so we're gonna break down everything we've seen thus far. Okay, first, let's start with Obama's former chief White House counsel, Kathy Rubiller, and a very eerie, very suspicious email with her and Epstein. Now, they're communicating back and forth in this email, but at the bottom of this email gets really weird. And I quote, she says, yes, I will be like the doctor at Lenox Hill, put that crazy in room 1, gunshot in surgery, and the cook, well, he can wait. You guys, remember Obama's chef who worked at the White House and who died at Obama's house? Could they be talking about him? Now, being that email was from 2014, saying the cook can wait, you mean like 9 years later wait, where he actually died in 2023? Yeah, that's suspicious. Gets even wilder though. So, we have an email from 2018 with Jeffrey Epstein and his brother, Mark Epstein, in which Mark is asking, buckle up, he says, does Putin still have the pictures of Trump blowing Bubba, aka Bill Clinton? Bro, what? Okay, even if this is even remotely true, how relevant would this picture be that they found in Epstein's house of Bill Clinton in a blue dress, in which Monica Lewinsky was in a blue dress just like this when she blew him? This is giving way to the biggest blackmail ring of all time, but let's keep going. Now, if we weren't completely off the rails, this is gonna take us there because there's an email stating that he was into bioengineering and genetics, specifically black people. And I quote, "You might be able to make blacks smarter by changing the time for the motor layer development and changing the time for other layers." Then he states their brains are slower at learning high-level concepts, in which he's giving way to slavery being that muscle twitch for slaves. We're faster, so we're stronger, jump higher than the white people were thinking all day, basically, and making them smarter under pressure over time. Now, not only he was into bioengineering and genetics, and he had his own office at Harvard called Jeffrey's office, but he had close ties to MIT, in which he had very close ties to this guy, Marvin Minsky, who is the co-founder of MIT's AI laboratories, and they call the father of AI. I mean, it really takes the guesswork out of why he was trafficking people besides blackmail. You wanted to experiment on people like a test lab rat. Now, this part totally makes sense, where the head morgue manager of Harvard pled guilty earlier this year for selling body parts online. Does anybody want to take a wild guess who he was working for? Epstein he was working for. Now, there's a whole lot more, so I'm gonna do a part 2.
Wiener's laptop had kill switches in it. It was filled with crap that wasn't supposed to be there. We never get to see it. Supposedly 9 cops watched the videos on Wiener's laptop. They had to keep leaving the room because they couldn't stand what they were seeing.
You talk about fragile
all 9
drip.
are now dead. And there's names and faces and deadness, right? They're real people. Now you can say, well, maybe they died for other reasons. I go, but it's still 9 cops. You know, it's like the 5 cops who died after January 6th, right? 4 of them were suicides. According to AI, there were about 80 cops really in the thick of things. 4 of them died from suicide.
President Trump was the one who really broke the news with Virginia Roberts, who used to work for him. Her father worked for him directly, and she was taking care of the coats and so on at Mar-a-Lago. When it came to his attention through her father that Jeffrey Epstein was doing things that he shouldn't be doing with his daughter. Virginia subsequently married and became Virginia Giuffre, whom we all recognize from the court material, which was extensive. The real story doesn't really lie in, let's say, Biden's laptop, but it lies with Anthony Weiner's laptop, which the FBI has had. And there's the information which is really revealing about Prince Andrew and other royal princes, if you know what I mean. So the fact that the President of the United States is invited to meet with the King of England suddenly is very interesting in the context. The Prime Minister is right there, and the discussion would be, of course, to make sure that British citizens of import are not mentioned in the disclosures. So I don't know how much time you can give to this, but in my opinion, these are very, very interesting times. And Kash Patel, this is why I wanted to access your line and let you know he should get Anthony Weiner's laptop.
All right, bro.
Okay, the first thing I want to go back to is when they were talking about the Queen being trapped.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What they're talking about is called a real worm.
Mm-hmm.
There was a network of real worms around the time Elizabeth died
Mm-hmm.
that was being eradicated from the earth by frequency. When the frequency go off, they can't transfer hosts. When they can't transfer hosts, they're gonna trap, and that's how they die. So when they're saying that she didn't die, she was trapped, that's what they're talking about. The real worm was trapped. When they do with the Pope have different what they call candidates for Pope. When the Pope dies, they let the real worm try to assimilate with one of the prospects. They tell you which prospect the worm is that by telling you which Pope is up for the papacy. And then the so-called cardinal's supposed to vote. But the cardinals don't really have to vote. They have to test the real worm to see if it's compatible with this particular Pope. The way that the real worm know if the person is compatible is by his specialties knowledge-wise. Like you got a Pope for money matters, you got one for war matters, you got one for spiritual matters. So the real worm is going to take the one whose skill set match what embodiment he needs to take on in order to fulfill the duties of the papacy. Now remember, this is a real worm. The real worms have a psychic network. Wherever another real worm is, they got access to each other's information. This is how they was beating us, because they was having access to each other's information without us even knowing that this person had assimilated a real worm. Well, they had to give it all back. So a lot of the ones with real worms became lecturers, speakers, book writers, they organization founders, in order to feed the information that they accumulated, because their lifespan is thousands of years as long as they can occupy a suitable host.
Yeah.
So they got thousands of years of information that they've been putting back in the public domain under the pretense of esoteric information. The exoteric information is the control doctrines for crowd control, like religions, politics, and finance. They use monopoly money because nobody's never really gaining or losing anything. The money not real.
Yep.
Right? And so they put that out as the primary instrument to do business in their construct, which means that every time we try to open up our own, they have to shut us down.
Yep.
So that they the only ones that's doing business on the land. That's telling us, that's them telling each other that we not qualified to handle our own businesses in our communities. So now they have to recruit foreigners, Koreans and Vietnamese for our hair stores. They had to recruit foreigners, Arabs for our gas stations and liquor stores. They got to recruit foreigners, Africans to come braid our hair. They got to recruit foreigners to come in and be executives, Korea, Vietnam, Japan, China, in our major corporations, so they don't ever have to put us in those positions, because they don't never want us to know that we are fully capable of running all of those systems ourselves without having outsiders in our business. But they keep using our outsiders to block us out, because as long as they got a foreigner in the place, that's one less ninja they got to worry about.
Hey, you know something, Rod? It's funny that you said that, because when you said that, I thought about something that happened in my city. Well, it was this black lady that had, and you know about the word black, but it was this Nubian sister. They set up her own credit union. She had started out with one, got 3, 4. She had took over the city banks. She pretty much was all the Nubians were going to her and stopped going to like Bank of America and all that. She had started her own credit union. She had got big, and then all of a sudden the feds raided her and said that she had set up some kind of fraud. And then right like the next week, as soon as they got her out the way, they moved some Russians in on that same bank. The Russians took over them banks.
Okay, now watch this.
Go
It's the
ahead.
same thing happened with the bank in Carolina, and Frederick Douglass had to give them money to keep them open because all of the Europeans had defaulted on loans.
Hmm.
So Frederick Douglass bailed them out.
Yeah, I heard about that. I heard something about that. How Frederick Douglass back then supposed to have all that money because he was
If he
connected.
was a slave.
Yeah, he wasn't no slave though. He was King George III's son. Wilper Bay. They came over. He spoke several languages because he went to school over here in America. King George III sent him to go to school over here. That's why he knew his way around. And then he had to
Look,
change his name several times from getting killed. Because the Knights of Templar and the Rothschilds and they Black Hand puppets. The puppets for the Black Hand was after him.
he claimed he was Cherokee.
That could have been true too, man. With his mother through his mother. Because I got some more information on that on Carolina.
Remember, Noble Drew Ali said he was Cherokee.
North Carolina, South Carolina.
In the novel, the Nat Turner novel that gave us Nat Turner, it said he was supposed to be a Cherokee Indian too.
That same story connect with Frederick Douglass about that storyline. Look, they changed his name and try to say Nat Turner, but that's the same storyline as Frederick Douglass. You can side by side all the people that you name, and it's the same exact person. Side by side the pictures. But North Carolina is named after, and Carolina is what the Cherokees did now. What they was in Louisiana part at the time too. But that land is named after, I think, after his mama, after Frederick Douglass' real mother.
It's supposed to be Princess Caroline. It was named after.
Yeah, Carolina is his mother, I think.
I know, but I never look into that part, so I can't tell you that. But I can tell you that Queen Elizabeth real worm got trapped. This is what they was talking about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, once you understand the real worm had a hive host that came from a mirror dimension. And her sexual anatomy was like a hyena. Yeah, and this is why she had to live under the Vatican. She couldn't sit in the sacerdotal seat, even though it was a 2X female. It still had anatomy of a male. Right. So if you want to know what I'm talking about, when y'all do the reference check, type in XX male and then check in XY female. Because you can have the chromosome, but you can be born the opposite gender. Those are the ones that we say born gay. Right. So look those up and then it'll help you understand. You also got something called a 3XY male and a 4X female. Right. So those are all extra chromosomes in the genome. Even in Down syndrome, there's an extra chromosome that causes the condition. But the chromosome can operate in what's called a shadow capacity. That means it's not fully functional and activated, in which you will have the appearance of Down syndrome, but you will have normal to higher intelligence than a person with Down syndrome. Right. So this is where you get your Mongolian features from, the inactive gene being still expressed without taking over the person who is carrying the genome trait. Right. So when the host get killed, which was the lizard that lived under the Vatican, I actually did a post when it happened to commemorate the day that it happened. So it's time stamped and archived, and I can pull up the exact date. And That's when the Schumann blast then terminated the vril. Now they can't jump host. The Schumann blast has altered the genetics of anybody who would be a compatible host. Now there's no more compatible hosts for the real worm to jump to, because that was one of the alien species that we had to purge from the earth. And it was one of the fastest ones to get rid of, because you only had to change a small frequency on the genome and make it where they can't jump hosts, and they trapped. They trapped in the dead host until they decay. That's how the real worm, you kill them, either you kill them in the host like that, by trapping them in a dead host where the dead host can no longer nurture them, or you have to make them come out of the host and you have to squash them outside the host.
This is hey, y'all, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Y'all see we got, as always, we like to show Chief some love so we can keep him out the plantation. We got the Cash App and PayPal on the screen. Like I say, we got like a lot of people here tonight. Hey, we got.
I got one more mirror to flip.
Okay, flip that mirror real quick. I'll make an announcement. Go ahead, Rod.
Okay, so the John D advised the Queen Elizabeth I on using the conjure known as the first blood of the righteous to write the secondary constitution to put us in the slumber. Right? John D. Now, what's the flip? Donald John. D. John is the flip. That's us using the conjure on the flip to get us out of the condition John D put us in. We use D. John Trump.
Yeah.
To get us out of the condition that they use the conjures to put us in. As we expose the conjures to the consciousness of the public, it allows the next step to be made in the neutralizing of the corporate fiction, in the reclaiming of the whole of the territory. So while we doing the unraveling of the conjures, he's doing the political footwork. Now remember, John D advised Queen Elizabeth I on political matters.
Mm-hmm.
So D. John Trump is using the military to undo political conjures. Mm-hmm. As we walk the people through and get them to the point where they can actually see this stuff playing out in reverse in front of them. So for the George Washington, we had George Bush, right? And George Bush II. The continuation of the first George Bush gave you your Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton crime family, and your son, George W. Bush crime family, which was the Dick Cheney Association.
Everybody
right?
got them letters at the funeral, right? Everybody got them letters at the funeral.
Yep. And then you had your Barry Sotoro or Barry Del Sotoro, the son of Lolo Sotoro, the clone of Akhenaten, coming in to usurp the birthright of the Tutankhamun. Right? So now you have the Amen trying to replace the Aten. So the government, what we don't realize is Barack Obama tried to recontract and put us under another contract to Morocco.
That's why he went over there.
Right. The contract with Morocco would have re-enslaved us all over again for another 200 to 400 years.
Yeah.
But because the foreigner took office, it ended the corporation. All we had to do is be aware that there's a foreigner in office. Because there's no foreigners, so there's nobody that's not born in American soil supposed to take the office of the president. because that's control of the military.
Right.
Right. So when Barack Obama take office, he's a foreigner. He ends the corporation right there. Now we have to restore the republic. How do you restore the republic? You dismantle the corporation, but you need time in order to do it without having to use warfare as the prelude to change. Donald John Quavius was the wartime president. So even though you had your corporate election to put a new CEO in front of the corporation in your Biden administration, it was still Donald John Quavius was still the commander in chief of the military, because he can't change office once he declared war on the deep state. And we all heard him do it. And we all seen his first inauguration with all of the military top brass present. He just recently got rid of a sizable portion of top brass, like 6 or 7 different people, because they was discovered to be working for the deep state. All these people has been tried under the JAG courts, and they've been running tribunals in Gitmo. They've been running tribunals in Geneva for people from other parts of the world. Russia last year drove a submarine to deliver international prisoners to Gitmo. And most of us didn't know what was happening. We thought that Russia was just pulling up on us. But you seen the American ship that was in the harbor left the harbor before the Russian submarine surfaced. Why? Because he had to clear the harbor out for the foreign government to secure the harbor before they docked their ship. And if it was hostile, the American ship would have never left the harbor.
Hey, so the anti-winner laptop and Trump making the trip over to London or to Great Britain so they can beg him, don't show our names in our pit in the videos of with the little kids. So, but Trump gonna use that for leverage to say, all right, well then, since if y'all want to play ball, we can figure this out, huh?
Yeah. Most of those people that was the heads of states
killed, right?
around, yeah, they was replaced with lookalikes and clones. Well, not clones, skin masks.
Okay.
Most of them not clones. Most of them are lookalikes. The ones that they calling clones are lookalikes. That's why if they was clones, you wouldn't be able to tell the physiological difference. When you can see a difference in them, like the 2 Dave Chappelles, the old one and the new one. When you can see the difference in them, they lookalikes. They not clones. The clone look exactly like the original, like an identical twin. Yeah. Whereas the lookalike can be the same but different.
Yeah.
This is how we knew that the Biden was skin mask and deep fake, because he looked like the original, but not really.
Yeah.
He was a lookalike. And we seen the character that Jim Carrey played in various different movies. That's the identical goofball that they had playing Biden.
Right.
But they had like 5 or 6 different people playing them. One of them came out with Mrs. Biden. This dude's 7 feet tall. You can't not notice that difference. But most people didn't notice that difference.
Damn, I'm gonna go back and check that out. That's creepy right there. That's creepy. Yeah, so it obviously it must got the royal family and a whole bunch of other world leaders on that laptop, man. That's why they got that laptop guarded like it's gold or something.
Yeah, well, the Wiener laptop got the most incriminating stuff on it. We talked about Hunter Biden laptop. We talked about the Epstein files, but the most damaging stuff is on the Wiener laptop. Anthony and his brother and Ghislaine Maxwell was all at the John Benet Ramsey party when the girl came up dead.
Man.
They've been seen in background pictures of the day that nobody didn't realize it was them until years later after the frazzle drip became known. That's the frazzle drip is the video of Hillary Clinton cutting the little girl face off.
With a
Which is also the ball from Tom Hanks in he was stranded on that island. Castaway, I think was the name of it.
Yeah.
It's also the same symbol that you've seen on
all their shirts.
Yeah. Jay-Z had one on. Then one of the girls went to some kind of ball dressed as the frazzle drip, right? Because that's how they exposing her. And what's the lesbian comedian chick name?
Ellen DeGeneres? Ellen Jenner?
No, the lesbian comedian chick. They got Ellen DeGeneres. Yeah, that's her name.
Yeah, that's her name. Ellen DeGeneres.
That's her name, Ellen DeGeneres. She had on the frazzle drip shirt. She was also on videotape having sex with little girls.
Yep. At Epstein's.
Yeah, so look, everybody on Epstein's flight log is not on videotape doing dastardly deeds. Some of them actually went there to perform for parties. But all of the ones that's dirty is on video.
Yep.
The videos in the Epstein files go all the way back to the beginning of Hollywood. They got the 35 millimeter film going all the way back to the original film from the reel-to-reel cameras when they first started doing film. That's how long they've been filming people doing dastardly deeds on that island. He was just the heir to carry it on as the handler, as the property caretaker, and the keeper of the archive. The archive had way more than just your modern day celebrities. You got celebrities from the 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, and the 30s.
Damn.
They got silent movie actors where they got them on film having sex with little girls and little boys. Right? So it's not nothing new. They've been using that blackmail scheme for a very long time.
Yeah.
That's what it was, a blackmail racket, where they get you incriminating photographs and stuff on the individual of a high profile nature, and you threaten to release it to the public.
And that's what Diddy game was. Diddy learned that game and started utilizing it. He was the black guy, Black Epstein. He started people getting them on camera. Got them with their fingers in his booty.
He was told to do that by Clive Davis.
Yeah.
Clive Davis, the one who gave Puffy what's called the rub in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever they did, whatever freaky shit they did, I don't know, I wasn't there. But the blueprint remains the same.
Yeah.
If Puffy was given the handler rights by Clive Davis, he was also given the archive. And in the archive, he can go back and see who all they've been extorting.
Right.
Who all they got compromised.
Owe us money.
Yeah. So they don't tell you about fat ass Al Sharpton laying up there with them little girls on video.
And they got Jesse Jackson with cocaine and a hooker in Chicago. They got him. I saw some of the stuff, the files that they got. They got stuff on Jesse Jackson, Martin Luther King. Yeah, man. I said, oh boy, these people right here. And hey, look, J. Edgar Hoover, he was a certain type of dude, man. That got once he like to frame and get dirt, blackmail motherfuckers, man.
Yeah. So he tried to.
This is what I was going to ask you, bro. Damn. So you think that when they were sending letters, the COINTELPRO, and they were sending letters to Martin Luther King, suicide letters, they were sending letters back and forth between the Gangster Disciples and the Black Panthers in Chicago.
It wasn't the Gangster Disciples, it was the Black Peace Stones and the Black Panthers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they was using the letters that they was telling Jeff Ford that Fred Hampton was talking down on him and challenging his authority, and then they wrote Jeff Ford a letter saying that Fred Hampton was going to send the Panthers to come get him, but neither one of them, they didn't fall for it.
Yeah, they figured it out. Yeah,
they didn't. Yeah, they figured it out. That created a problem.
That was part of the conjure.
Yeah, but that's the reason why they ended up having to. That's the reason they had to kill Fred Hampton. They had to kill Fred Hampton because when that letter didn't work, they couldn't start the conflict between the Panthers and the Stones because their alliance was too strong. When you go back to the funeral of Fred Hampton, you're going to see a parade of peace stones showing homage to Fred Hampton. But what you don't see is in the crowd, you got folks in the crowd. You got Black Gangster disciples in the crowd at Fred Hampton funeral, but they don't never show you that part because it'll show you that we was functional together before we was infiltrated. Right? When the Brothers of the Struggle came about in Pontiac, Illinois, it wasn't just the Black Gangster Disciple Nation or the Black Growth and Development Nation. It was also Vice Lords, Stones, and a couple of Latin gangs included. Their leadership included accepting themselves as brothers of the struggle and a unity bid that started in the streets of Chicago in what was called Lower Stones and Disciple Alliance to stop the building of the damn Ryan. Right? So the LSD group became brothers of the struggle in the prison context because now they all down in the prison being treated like crap by the same prison holders. So they had to form these alliances in order to fight the administration. Most people don't know that the corrections officers say that they're the biggest gang in the country, except right after the police. Yeah. And they consider themselves to be police, even though they don't have policing powers. Yeah. Right. So they feel like that if they treat inmates like crap, some of them, the sociopathic ones especially, they're treating inmates like crap is the way that you be a good corrections officer, never knowing that one day your ass might be locked up too. Then what you gonna do? Yeah. Right. Matter of fact, I had a brother-in-law that was a corrections officer in Delaware. And he used to come back and tell us how he used to fuck them dudes up that was inmates. Then next thing you know, crack got him there.
Crack cocaine. Man,
crack got him there. So now he got to do time with the same people he was treating like shit when he was a corrections officer. And look how karma do.
Yeah, crack is cold, man. Cold piece.
Karma got the most bizarre sense of humor in your payback. Because you might have been bullying a bunch of little kids when you was 18, 19, and then you went somewhere, come back, all them little kids grown now. And you used to bully them. And they can't wait to see your ass again. Yeah.
All right,
where you want to go from here?
Hey, we over time. I brought out the pictures. Hey, we going at 2:30. We're gonna go to 2:30. That's cool. But look, everybody, we had 10,000 people on tonight. That's almost a record, man. So I think we hit more than 10,000 before. We had 12,000 one time, but this 10,000 people on. Hey, man, everybody send Rod $5 right now. You can't do that. Send them at least $1. If you go, hey, if you a baller, you know what I'm saying? If you a mid-range baller, send him 25. If you a heavy-duty baller, send him 100. Put them all the way in the game. Till the next time we come on, man. You already know how we do it. Hey, Rod, you want to say something before we get up out of here?
I think I done said enough. We done covered a lot of territory.
Yeah, because then I got to take. Oh, go ahead, Rod.
We done covered a lot of territory, flipped a lot of mirrors.
Yeah, you flipped
same thing we seen coming out, the same thing we seen when we went in it.
I got a whole bunch of notes right here. I'm gonna do an AI tape off. Hey, let me ask you. Let me tell y'all this. I put out a tape yesterday called "How the British Royal Crown Was Overthrown." It kind of go along with this tape. So if you want to check that out, you go watch that on the video side. I got the Haitian Revolution. I was gonna drop that, but I ain't gonna drop it till what's tomorrow. I'll drop it the next day because I'm gonna let this tape just sit up on and get its place. So I'll drop it the next day. I'm done with the Haitian Revolution. I I'm working on a whole file about the game Operation Crash. That's why Sylvester and Owens and all that came up, right? So I'm gonna call you and get with you more on that, Rod, on what was going down, so I can get more angles from you on that. Because I'm doing I'm doing David Boxdale, the P Stones. I already got the P Stones. I'm building a whole file on this whole operation, on how, you know, what was going on the land as far as the gangs being labeled as being tribes.
Yeah, so that makes you got to remember, you got to read Readiness Exercise 1984. You have to read the mission statement of COINTELPRO to even understand what we're talking about when we say in Chicago alone, they had 400 young so-called black males on a list to be neutralized to prevent the rise of any potential messiah who could incite the masses. The only three names mentioned in the cover letter itself or in the directive, the mission statement, is Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King. They wasn't worried about Elijah Muhammad because he was old, but they was worried about Malcolm and they was worried about Martin. After Malcolm's assassination in 64, acting on information that Malcolm gave Martin at the March on Washington in 63, he went to go talk to Elijah Muhammad. It's called the Historical Meeting in Arizona. He stayed a whole week with Elijah Muhammad. His whole dialogue changed, and that's when he told Harry Belafonte, I think I done integrated my people into a burning house. This is when he came and described how the European peasantry was brought over and how they mechanized their farms and subsidized their farms at the expense of the tribes that was already here.
Yeah,
right? So he was going to get the check. We not going to get the check. They are going to bring us the check. They gonna bring us the check. They gonna cash the check and tell us where everything that belongs to us is at.
Right.
So when you trace your family lineage, you're gonna run into a big ass farm in your family somewhere. That's gonna be the farm you're gonna have to go to tap into the big mama to get your wealth unlocked. They gonna have people there to help you, and they'll all be related to you. And you're gonna be like, damn, we wish we knew this earlier. We wouldn't have had to suffer like we did. Well, we know it now, and it's coming.
The Wicked Witch is dead. The Wicked Witch of the East. And then Hillary Clinton is the Wicked Witch of the West. You got the Wicked Witch of the East, Wicked Witch of the West. The Wicked Witch of the East is dead. And that stuff fell off the front of the gates when the people been evicted up out of there, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's all a wrap.
Yeah.
Lizzie's in the box.
Man, she didn't make it out. She didn't make it out, bro, in time. She didn't make it out.
All right, take us on home, Mel.
All right. Hey, y'all. Free the master teacher, Dr. Malachi York. Free Jeff Ford. Free Larry Hoover. Right? Free all of the political prisoners, man. We back in the business, man. It ain't no doubt about it in our mind that we know all them people is in there for COINTELPRO operations. Ain't no doubt in my mind, man. You know what I'm saying? Straight up. And RP H. Rap Brown. Somebody said H. Rap Brown passed away. You heard about that?
I ain't heard nothing about that. That had to just happen.
Yeah, it must have just happened. I'm gonna go check that out when we get off. Somebody put that in the chat. Yeah, so peace and love, y'all. Everybody send cheaper donation. We out, y'all. Hey, till next time. Peace and love. One love. Wadu.